Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Miguel Molina, and over the next 35 to 40 minutes, we'll be sharing with you our suite, our solution. So again, thank you for being here. I see some people is just joining, so I'll give about 15 to 30 seconds. Before we start, I want to thank DFN and Bechle for putting together this webinar. The way we're gonna go over the next 35 to 40 minutes is I'm gonna share the general concepts behind this advanced analytics solution. And then I'm gonna do a demo, 10, 15-minute demo. There's gonna be some space for Q&A in case you have any questions. Happy to entertain them, happy to answer them. All right, I think it's 2 p.m. Let's kick this off. Everybody should be able to see my screen. So let's do this. Higher education institutions are facing tons of challenges, literally unprecedented challenges with everything that is happening. Demographic changes, the incursion of AI, and higher education leaders are asking themselves multiple questions. How could we increase our enrollments? As a private institution, as a graduate school, as a business school, how could we dramatically increase our enrollments? What if we could systematically identify those students that might be at risk, academic risk, or risk of dropping out? Is there any way we could truly use advanced analytics and AI to personalize the student experience? How could we truly align our offering with whatever the market is demanding in order to maximize employability? My name is Miguel Molina. Thank you for being here. These are some of the questions that we're going to try to answer today. I'm the CEO of Analytikus. And at Analytikus, we work on these challenges by putting together a platform. We call it SEAL, which is the acronym for Student Experience for Augmented Learning. And we believe it is a front row approach to solving the most pressing challenges that higher institutions have. The way SEAL works is quite simple. The transactional systems that you currently have, your student information system, your learning management system, your ERP, your CRM, and so on, is producing tons of data, tons of digital footprints that truly explain how a student learns, how a student behaves, how faculty interacts. All this data gets pushed to our platform. Everything happens there. And then from there, it interacts with the different stakeholders, either prospects, students, faculty member, or even alumni. We're going to dissect a little bit of how SEAL works, or what's on the inside. So the first layer is what we call the data layer, and we call it WHALE, which is the acronym of Warehouse of Holistic Academic and Learning Environment. For those of you that have a technical background, it is not truly a data lake, it is not a data warehouse, it is rather a data schema, a predefined data schema that allows our time to impact to be really aggressive. I'm going to mention this at the end, but for you to have an idea, each of these modules, on average, takes 10 to 12 weeks to be activated. On top of WHALE, on top of the data layer, we have the different AI modules. And of course, the last layer is based on large language models, and it's what we call the AI agents engine. So in terms of the different modules, I'm going to spend a few minutes on each of them. But there are 4 key challenges that we're trying to solve. Maximize student conversion, or prospect conversion rather. Identify students at risk to minimize student dropout. Maximize employability, and that's what we call a skills planner, the yellow one. And personalize the learning experience, and that's what we call augmented learning. On top of each module, you have the different engines, the different AI engines for lead nurturing, for interventions at risk, for mentor support, and so on. Give me 1 second. Let's stop this here. Okay. Let's start with admissions optimizer. So admission optimizer, the first solution, tries to solve 4 specific things. Number 1, how could we identify those students most likely to convert, or those prospects most likely to convert? Number 2, how could we identify what are the variables that explain the conversion and the attributes that maximize it in order to optimize our campaigns? Number 3, how could we follow up on specific prospects individually? So what we're trying to do is prescribe to your sales team, to your commercial teams. Of course, this applies for private institutions, mostly graduate studies. When should you talk to a specific prospect, and how, through which channel, in order to maximize conversions? And of course, the candidate profiling. By identifying what are the variables that explain it, you can invest your marketing efforts on those most likely to convert. Beyond these 4 use cases, you have the AI agents component for lead nurturing, for sales follow-up, or for program info. So as you can see, we believe at Analytikus that the power of the large language model comes mostly from enabling data through an advanced analytics layer. I want to share with you an example. So SEO University Group is the largest private Catholic group in Spain. They have 4 universities. We're working with 3 universities. And the challenge mostly is how could we identify those international students most likely to convert into local students? So there are many campaigns taking place, and our solution allows the university to optimize their campaigns in order to maximize their investment on these marketing campaigns. Second module, foresight. How could we identify those students at risk, academic risk, or risk of dropping out? So the way the solution works, it gathers the data from the different systems. It uses a machine learning algorithm in order to predict the probability of the student dropping out. So as you might remember, data comes from your transactional systems into Whale. Then it runs the different machine learning solutions for online students, for face-to-face students, hybrid. And then we activate an agent that either is going to follow up on students at risk. For instance, Miguel, we haven't seen you, we've seen that you've been struggling attending your math class. Do you know that our institution, there is X or Y resources that you could use for tutoring or for academic support? The same way we're doing this directly for the student through an agent, it can be done for the mentors or for the team in charge of the interventions. Let me give you an example. Uniminuto is one of the largest private institutions in Colombia, more than 100,000 students. And they aim at supporting the most vulnerable population on Colombia. So their dropout rate is fairly large. Just by identifying those students most likely to drop out, Uniminuto can optimize the resources to support those specific students, saving tons of energy and supporting those that need it the most. I'm going to run for the third module, which we call Skills Planner. As you know, the market is changing quite rapidly, and it is a challenge for institutions to align their offering with whatever the market is demanding. Skills are changing way more faster and quicker. The way the solution works is by identifying the skills that the market is demanding, the skills that the student or the prospect has, in order to identify the gap, and with that gap, prescribe the different courses that are going to maximize the employability of the student or the prospect in case we want to use this solution for continuous education. Again, this works through an agent that could interact with the prospect or with a student through different channels. I have not mentioned this, but our agents are exposed through API services, so they could be integrated on Teams, they could be integrated on a web chat, on the mobile app, WhatsApp, Slack, and so on. So let me give you an example. University of Murcia, which is one of the largest public universities in Spain, with about 30,000 students, now has the ability to rapidly identify the alignment or disalignment of their course offering versus what the market is demanding. So one of the data sources that applies here for Skills Planner is the job offering boards, the job offering web pages. So we mine that data in order to extrapolate those skills. And of course, we mine the data of the courses being offered by an institution in order to identify if the skills are being covered or not and how far they are. I'm going to show you a demo in a second where you'll be able to see this. Last but not least is our augmented learning solution. So the first three solutions that we've discussed, admissions, retention, and employability, are in the space of what we call student success. This solution is in the space of learning analytics, truly trying to move how a student learns. The way the solution works, it mines the data coming mostly from the LMS. It could be Moodle, it could be Canvas, it could be Blackboard. The data coming from there gets characterized in order to infer how a student learns. Based on this, an agent is going to support a student from two perspectives, pedagogically and on a disciplinary basis. So as you can see in the image below, and I'm going to make here a little zoom, the data is coming from the LMS, then it gets characterized on this proprietary learning analytics framework. And based on this characterization, an agent is going to be supporting the different students. Let me share with you an example. So, University of Murcia, again, one of the largest public universities in Spain, has implemented this solution in order to identify specific areas where students might be lacking the skills and the competency, in order to support them personally, mostly with this pedagogical support. I'll give you an example. If the student has not or has been checking the assignments on the LMS the day that these assignments are due, it lets us know that the student might be procrastinating. If this happens, the agent proactively is sending a message to students saying, hey, do you know that it's a good practice every time you get an assignment to map it on your calendar? Hey, do you know that it's a good practice before you go to school to check on your mobile phone what you need to deliver over the next few days for that specific course? So it uses behavioral economics components in terms of what we call nudges or the nudge theory in order to modify indirectly negative behavior. So all these modules are modular, so there's no call for one institution to have everything at once. It could be one module at a time. The solution has been proven. Dozens of institutions globally use our platform in Spain, in Qatar, in Latin America, in the US. And there are different use cases that we could share with you. So I want to share with you a brief demo on some of these components. Let me jump here. So let's just start. All information that you're going to see over the next 5 to 10 minutes, it's fake. No, it's just for demo purposes. So as you might remember, 4 key headaches, admissions, retention, employability, and learning. So we're going to start with admissions. So this data is coming mostly from the CRM. The data flows into Whale, and from Whale, it goes into an algorithm that is continuously predicting the probability of a student or a prospect converting into a student. So these reports are just to have a strategic view of what is happening. The intervention is mostly happening out of your CRM. So we can see the different stages, from prospect to applicant, from applicant to admitted, from admitted to registered. Each prospect, every time it interacts with your CRM, is going to get rescored. And based on this score, you can take different actions. Here's a couple of examples. So let's say Adora. It's in the funnel stage of an applicant, applying for a specific midwives program. The probability to move forward is 77%. The probability to register or to enroll is 56%. You can see the generative AI component giving you prescription on how to follow up on this specific prospect. On the bottom, Adora, a prospective student interested in gynecological and obstetric emergencies, will benefit from understanding the program's excellence and practical applications. Highlighting the benefits of television ads and showcasing successful professionals in this area will resonate with Adora and encourage enrollment, and so on and so forth. So the best scenario is that this lead scoring is being pushed into your CRM, and from your CRM, different actions are propelled automatically. Let me show you very briefly foresight. Remember, continuously, systematically calculating the probability of a student dropping out. So in this case, we have 27,000 students divided in the different risk groups. So out of the 27,000, we have 12,000 yellow, 7,000 red, 7,000 green. We can see the 27,000 students filtered by school, by degree, by student type, by program. Of course, this is very generic information. We could double click on this to see a little bit more of detail and go all the way down to the student level. We have pre-selected a program, the Bachelor of Business Administration, that has 176 students. Out of the 176, we can see 67 are high risk. We can see those students in this scatter graph. On the Y, we see the grades. On the X, we see the score. So very clearly, we can see those red and orange on the right side. Those are the students most likely to drop out. And we can identify them here. And now, let me just stand on top of any student, and you're going to see this little pop-up that gives me additional information. The student with enrollment 31% is a high risk with an average of 0.78. He has this balance and these absences and so on. We can also see how the dropout score has changed over time. So this solution scores and rescores every time data changes. Usually we set up a calendar. Of course, this is an online program, it's going to change more frequently than if it is, let's say, a more traditional program. Fitting mostly out of your SIS. So it might work only with your SIS data. Ideally, we would also bring data from your LMS. And remember, once we identify students at risk, there are a couple of things that could happen. We could enable the agent, and I'm going to show you that in a second. We could enable the agent to reach out directly to the student through a message on Teams, on the app. Or we could enable directly the team in charge of student well-being so they could reach out to the student at risk. Let me show you the third solution, Skills Planner. The data that you're seeing is from the US, but of course this can be integrated very easily into data coming from any country. What we see here The first one is the market appetite. So what is the market demanding? We're mining the career offers, the job offers, to see the number of jobs postings by title. What are the top skills that are being demanded? We could say, hey, I'm only interested in seeing that by province, by state, by region. So only in the Texas area, we have 500,000 jobs that have been mined. What are the top offers? What are the top skills? So this gives us already what the market is demanding. But there's some magic once we see our programs being offered, how it matches with the skills that the market is demanding. So let's say for a specific industry, and I'm gonna get accounting, our Department of Administration, and let's say business development, consulting, for those programs, how is it aligned or misaligned with what the market is demanding? And we can see here, and I'm going to make this chart bigger, we can see here the coverage that we actually have for those industries. So you can see here a big gap in some of these programs. The computer information systems and the construction management program are probably those that have the largest coverage for those skills being demanded. We can see also the skills that are being demanded, and you can filter by different certifications or diplomas or programs and so on. Remember, this data is going to be mined mostly or operationalized mostly through the use of an agent, and I'm going to jump into that in a second. So let me just show you the last report. So we've seen admissions, we've seen retention, we've seen employability, and I'm going to go for the fourth one, which is learning. So very briefly, remember the data is coming mostly from the learning management system. Each student, based on the signals that are leaving behind, gets characterized on how the student is learning. And based on this, we identify those areas where the student might have the largest opportunity. So the agent is going to be reaching out with this type of messages that you see on the bottom. Let me just grab one. Be comprehensive and not just focus on your intellectual abilities. Think and carry out an activity a week related to other social, emotional, artistic, and physical themes. So this message that the student would be receiving is not random. It comes from the areas of opportunities that are being transpired once we characterize how the student learns. If we aggregate these data, not at the student level, but rather at the professor level, we can give each professor a view on what is happening with their groups, what is happening overall, if one group is gravitating towards a specific need or not. But even better than this, because we've seen that for teachers, sometimes it's hard to use and get into using these reports. What we've done is we set up an agent that mines this data and prescribes to faculty how to follow up with specific pedagogical sequences or different ideas. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so let me, actually, I'll start with that one. So what you're seeing here is an example of an agent, and I started working on it before the demo, just to give you, to speed this up a little bit. So this is Socrates. This is the way we call the agent that supports faculty and sits on top of Augmented Learning, the latest module that I shared. It can do different things. It can list my courses, provide course level diagnostics, indicators, learning styles, summaries, provide a student level diagnostic based on the data that the student is leaving behind on the LMS and gets processed through this algorithm. Generate didactic sequences, lessons plans for a session, offer pedagogical advice and strategies for teaching, answer questions about portrait. So what I asked here at the very end is, provide a course level diagnostic. It's telling me, okay, I'll do that. For which course? So I selected a specific course, and here's a course level diagnostic. Indicators related to attention, auto-activation, self-activation, time management. Students show relatively strong levels of initial engagement and time management. They tend to initiate engagement and manage study time reasonably well, which supports gradual progress through material. So remember, this is gold for any faculty member that is using the LMS. And we can see the different, I'm not going to go through everything, but you can see the different components that are part of this characterization. Portrait-based synthesis, how a student learns, opportunities and strengths. I'll go with opportunities. Implement organizational supports, checklists, weekly planners, and centralized course dashboards to improve material management and deadline tracking. Increase multimodal content, combine visuals with concise summaries, short videos. There are some strengths, some recommendations, and it's giving me some extra options. Would you like to generate a plan tailored to this diagnostic? Let's say yes. Copy here, so I'll make it a little bit faster. Let's generate a plan for this course. So remember, this is the Learning Analytics solution. Couple of things I want to mention, because I did it a long time ago, it's enough. Couple of things before I forget. One has to do with GDPR. So all the data that runs on the system gets, we use pseudonyms. So there's not even a single piece of personal data that gets used. Once everything gets calculated, we push back the information to the institution, and the institution changes that hashtag back to the original ID of the student in case you want to launch an intervention or have additional information for faculty or so on. Let me show you another example of the agent. So this agent sits on top of Foresight, which you might remember is the solution that predicts the probability for student dropping out. If the large language model knows that I have a specific challenge, it would proactively reach out to the student and promote the support that is needed. What you're saying now, it's a bit more generic. I forced it. So it's reaching out to see how am I doing. So of course I'm complaining a little bit. My math teacher is really bad. I don't get anything. That sounds frustrating. Have you been able to seek help with your math class? I'm stressed also personally. And I could keep on going. How could you truly help me? So this is, it is personalized based on the resources that the institution could promote. Something that I haven't said before, but I'm just going to go here. It works in any language. So it works perfectly well in German, English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and so on. I can help you by exploring options that your school offers for support, such as tutoring programs, counseling services, or academic assistance. We can go through specific solutions that might address both your academic challenges and personal stress. Would you like to start with the academic side or discuss your personal situation first? So this is an example. Again, this could be enabled through different channels, such as Teams, WhatsApp, web chat, your mobile app, and so on and so forth. Okay, just to close things, a couple of things to add. Business model. So there are three business models that at Analytikus we promote. The first one is what we call SaaS. So it is very simple. Everything runs on our side. There's a yearly license per institution. We don't charge by the student. We don't charge, it's just an institute by the number of users within the institution. We charge a license per module per year, and that's it. So the SaaS model is very simple. Given that we're in Europe and our solution is part of commercial cloud marketplace, you could use your OCRE framework to enable this solution. So the PaaS business model allows everything to run in your infrastructure. It allows you to use your OCRE framework, your OCRE service to enable these products. So it is a shortcut, minimizes the effort, the cost, the purchasing need, and this is where our friends Bekele, for instance, they could help us. I've had many discussions with some institutions, and some of them want to build these solutions themselves. And our value proposition for this type of solutions, of institutions, is mostly use this as an accelerator. So instead of building everything from scratch, we also propose business model where we implement it, since mostly it's pre-built, we implement it, we set it up for your processes, for your services, and once it's implemented, we do a knowledge transfer and you take it from there. So let me close with this. I believe, as I shared at the very beginning, that higher education institutions have many challenges. Things are getting harder at the speed of light. And there are 4 headaches that we already control, that we have solutions to support you there. Enrollments, dropouts, employability, and learning. So if any of these resonates with you or with the different functional teams within your institution, let's talk. This is my contact information. You can contact me directly, or you can contact the team at Bekele directly. I'm happy to help. Let me pause there. I want to check if there are any questions on the Q&A. Okay, I just have a comment here. Thank you for the presentation. No, thank you for participating. I think we did it in about 30 minutes or so. So please, any comments, any questions? Happy to expand. Use your Q&A. Otherwise, we're gonna be posting this video on our YouTube channel, and we're gonna share it with the FN and with Bekele. So in case you wanna review it or you wanna share it internally. This is it from my side. If there are no more questions, I'll stay here for an extra minute or two. So here's one clarification, just to go a little deeper into this that we're being asked. So you could choose whether this solution you want it to be a full SaaS that runs within Europe, of course, within Germany, on the cloud. Number 2, it could run on your infrastructure, wherever you want to host it. Number 3, and in a licensing model, which is what we call PaaS. And the third one is what we call PaaS to IP, which is everything runs on your side, kind of in a more consultative way. We prepare it, we set it to work, and once it's working, there's a knowledge transfer, so you can take over and keep expanding on whatever it's built. And yes, you can use the OCRE framework in order to purchase these solutions. Very good. I don't know if there's any other question. Otherwise, I want to thank you for your time. Here's my contact data. Thank you for participating. And hopefully we'll talk soon. Thank you again. I see one question, GDPR compliance. So as I mentioned briefly, this solution is GDPR compliance in two senses. Number one, there's no personal data whatsoever as part of the solution. We only need an ID. And the ID, the way it works, it's a pseudonym. So basically, what it happens is you have a student, let's say, with ID 1. So before the information gets pushed into the cloud, you change the 1 for an A. So we process everything with a student ID A, which is a pseudonym. Even if this would be hacked, there's no way to go back from A to 1, because the only one that would have that key is you. Everything gets processed, and then it gets pushed back to wherever you decide, which might be the same cloud, but a different resource group or so on. And then you modify the pseudonym back to number 1 in order to support this student, or reach out to the student, or reach out to prospect. So the solution is 100% GDPR compliant. Remember that it runs on your cloud, it runs on our cloud, it runs in European territory, so there's a governance that you can have 100% for this infrastructure. I'm going to stay here for an extra minute if there's any other questions. Otherwise, thank you again. All right. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon. Bye.